Hey dudes, it's Lerald. This video is a natural progression from our last currency farming video, which was about Corrupted 8 mod map farming. The strategy is similar, with some small but crucial differences. We're talking maybe 10 to 20 divines per hour worth of differences. Maybe more. Who am I to say how much currency you're gonna find, how lucky you're gonna be? I'm just gonna move through the intro quickly, but first, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join our new Discord too. There is a link in the description. Alright, so what are tier 16.5 maps? They are tier 16 maps with a fancy extra implicit modifier that grants them originators memories. This causes them to be able to have tier 17 map modifiers, which grant bonuses like more currency and more map drops. Corruption Scarabs make all of your tier 16 maps drop corrupted with 8 modifiers, and for some amazing reason, they make all tier 16.5 maps drop with all 8 modifiers as tier 17 modifiers. This, and pretty much this alone, makes them substantially more rewarding and more dangerous than tier 17 maps. And to this point, I've just been showing tier 17 maps. Why? To set you up for this. Now that's not all that tier 16.5 maps offer. They also offer memory pedal skills, which can kind of be randomly anything. Bunch of random crap sometimes it's just pure player power. You're able to steal souls from monsters or modifiers. Sometimes it's the ability to turn monsters into gold. Essentially, you could just pull 250,000 gold out of a single map without breaking a sweat. Sometimes it's more item rarity, more quantity, more rewards, whatever. There's a lot of really good stuff. It is a little bit keyboard intensive having to kind of hit F2 or F3 or whatever your keybinds are a whole bunch of times, and it's a little annoying that they are all on a shared global cooldown, but what are you gonna do? That's the way it works. They make the game, we just play it, press the buttons and get stuff. So prior to patch 3.26, tier 17s were the gold standard for map juicing in PoE. That time has passed. The future is now, old man. Tier 16.5s are wildly more rewarding and more difficult than tier 17s, but they're also faster and cheaper. And that's what I've tried to optimize for with this farm strategy, a mixture of speed, cheapness, simplicity, and high reward. It's not easy, you will die, I have died, this is all fine. The reward justifies the risk. Most importantly, we're able to just completely self-sustain everything we use in the farm strategy. So the initial cost of like a few dozen to 100 chaos to get started on Scarabs is basically all you will ever need to invest. And then you're just going to be farming all the Scarabs and maps that you will use multiple times over, which means you can sell them to other people who are getting in on this a little bit later than you and profiting off of them getting in on the same strategy. I've been selling all of my excess off or feeding it all to my mappers in King's March. I've been feeding them so many tier 16 and tier 17 maps. Basically anything I can't run or sell, I feed to those guys. This strategy also gives you a steady stream of gold that you could, again, just feed directly into those hungry mappers as well. I may have buried the lead bit here too. This is not just the best farm strat in the game, it's also the best gold farm strat in the game. Even if you don't get the proper memory skill, you could still clear 40, 50,000 gold on a pretty decent map. But if you get the right gold skills, 250,000 gold is very reasonably attainable. And since we are burning through these maps pretty quickly, the frequency with which we hit those turbo gold maps is pretty high. I have farmed millions of gold a day. I spent over 1 million gold hiring new chumps / heroes to feed into my King's March map device. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with the Scarabs. So I am still running the same setup of Scarabs as before, where You want to cartography a Scarab of Corruption in order to get your maps to drop Corrupted in the first place. This is mandatory. You also want cartography Scarabs of Escalation. This will give you more map drops based on the number of modifiers on your maps. So if you have 8 mods on your maps, which we do, then you're going to get 80% increased map drop chance. This is great. We're then pushing that to the limit. I talked about this in the previous video, using cartography Scarabs of Risk as like a high risk option. And I've tried playing around with 3 of these. I tried playing around with just 1 and 2, kind of a mix of all 3. I found ultimately that I liked running 2 of these. This seemed to be kind of a sweet spot here. And then it gave me an option to run another Scarab. And I've been flip-flopping around a lot of different options. But I found that Influencing Scarab of Hordes has really been my favorite because it stacks with the amount of pack size that you get out of the Atlas passive tree. You take all of these small passives that give you increased Eater of Worlds pack size, that scales with Influencing Scarab of Hordes as well, along with all the pack size that you get out of these maps. And you could be looking at realistically like 180%, if not more, pack size on your Eater of Worlds. You're going to be getting tons and tons and tons of Eldritch Altars, which means more quantity, more rarity, more chances at Divine Orb Altars, good luck, but more div cards that drop currency altars, more map duplication altars. All of those things will be popping up much more often than I've ever seen before. Now, just to touch on a couple of those other options though that you can play around with if you really want to go super high budget. I love Horned Scarab of Bloodlines. I'm a huge fan of these in conjunction with Monstrous Lineage. I think the issue here is, right, if you wanted to do this trifecta of these 3, then you're gonna kind of be pressed on getting the cartography Scarabs of Risk in there. If you wanted to drop the risks, not take the risk and then spend that difference in currency on the Bloodlines and then throw in a couple of cheapo Monstrous Lineages on the side, I think that would work pretty nicely. Definitely one of my favorite combos to do. The issue is just that the Bloodlines are quite rare, so one person on their own can cause these to go from, I think they're like 35 chaos each right now, which isn't too bad. One person could make these be like 70 chaos right now. So that's really the only issue with that as a farm strategy. Another strategy that I really like is doing basically the same philosophy, but with rare monsters. You take Horned Scarab of Nemesis, it makes all the rare monsters have 2 extra mods. This is great if you get the tier 17 map modifier. I don't think I have it on any of these. That also gives rare monsters extra modifiers. Very dangerous, but awesome if you're headhunting, or if you get lucky and get one of the like memory pedal modifiers that gives you the headhunter effect. And then you combine that with Scarabs of Adversaries. Each of these add 4 packs with mirrored rare monsters, so that's 2 rare monsters in each pack, so 8. You could slap 2 of these in there, that's 16 extra rare monsters in your maps, and then the extra modifiers mean both danger, but also more reward out of those monsters. So this is a multiplier that goes on to all the rare monsters in the map, and then also the 16 extra rares that are added from the adversaries. And then the other thing I would consider doing instead of Influencing Scarab of Hordes is just a good old simple Domination Scarab, because you can get a few extra shrines, and shrines are fun. Now, in terms of the Atlas passive tree, I have added a link to this once again in the farm strat spreadsheet that'll be in the description. It's down at the bottom on the second tab here, tier 16.5 farming right here. And I haven't made huge changes from the other farm strategy that I was using, but there are some distinct ones that I want to point out. First off, I came down here and I took some blocker nodes. I took the block for Ominous Silence. I want to get rid of all the Delirium Scarabs. Delirium Scarabs are terrible, so we want to block all of those. Same goes with Blight Scarabs. Most of those are pretty bad. There is, I think, I saw somebody on Reddit posting some videos of them making a lot of currency with the new Blight farm strat that they were kind of pushing, and maybe Blight Scarabs are actually worth a bit now, so, you may consider dropping this, putting that point elsewhere, but at least in my mind, I always like to block Blight Scarabs. And then Ritual, I like to block not so much because of Ritual Scarabs being bad, but because Rituals spawn monsters, and there is one particular set of monsters that they will spawn that shoot out a bunch of incredibly hard to see pale green orbs that are just instant death. They're just instant death. If you're on the map with them and you stop at all at any point, then you're a dead man. So getting rituals out of my maps is good because it just massively reduces your chances of death. More than like any other point that you could put into the entire tree, just getting rid of ritual reduces the amount of deaths that you have on average by a lot. Then I also took singular focus because, you know, I'm really just trying to focus in on one map. I spent a while not running singular focus and I filled up my junk tab here, as you can see. About half of a quad tab roughly worth of junk maps. I don't feel like I need any more junk maps, and so now I have just simply locked my, I've been mostly running Mesa, which is up here. And so if you're running singular focus, there's just a little trick with this where if you're running singular focus, you want to set one of your favorites to be an adjacent map to the one that you're running, and then you can set all the rest of the favorites to the one that you're running. For whatever reason, this will result in more maps of the one that you're trying to get. Complicated PoE nonsense. But you'll also get like a massive amount of the adjacent map. This is just kind of how it goes when you're running a map. You will always get lots of adjacent maps, and so having one in conjunction with singular focus, which makes it so that you have a significant increased chance to get your favorite map, and then all of the non-favorite maps will just drop as like basically wisdom scrolls. Yeah, this setup of 11 favorited on the one that you want, and then 1 on the adjacent one will just give you significantly more maps. So in order to get the points to like fill in these blocker nodes and singular focus, and because we are running corrupted maps that drop corrupted, so we're not getting chiseled, the ability to chisel them at all, I have dropped chiseled perfection, and then I dropped the small passive nodes that gave a chance for maps to be 1 tier higher, and that's because there are some pretty significant diminishing returns. These small passives are not bad, but they're not great, especially considering that we are very, very much over sustaining the amount of maps that we need. So we just don't need these like 5 points in these small ones, and then the 1 point up here for chiseled perfection. So 5 down here, or 4 down here, 1 here, that's 5, and then the 6 point goes into cartography scarab, increased cartography scarab drop chance, along with the, I'm still keeping the ambush scarab drop chance because really love getting those and being able to sell those off. And those are really the 2 most valuable scarab types that you can get out of all of the scarab selectors. That's pretty much it for the tree. Not a lot else has changed. You still want all the quantity. I still like the quantity and rarity in the middle. I still like taking Seance and getting some possessed monsters in my maps, and then all of the map mod effect we can possibly get. Massive value out of the map mod effect. If there was anything else we could do at all to get more map mod effect, we would take it. Then from there, because I like domination shrines, I'm just taking all the domination shrine nodes, all of them, and taking all of the Eater of Worlds nodes, again, because I like Eater of Worlds. Not bothering with Etched by Acid, you know, that's very low value. That adds about an average of like 1 chaos per map, roughly, so that's pretty bad, 1 or 2, in terms of real value, but like everything else, very good. So we're going with that as well, just to get more Eater of Worlds pack size. All right, and so just as before, I am still running domination on the map device. You know, it's still 3 chaos for 3 shrines. Great deal. Really big fan of that. I don't think that quantity is better, but it is definitely an option. You could run that instead. I know some people have run Abyss. I get why you would run Abyss. Abyss adds a lot of monsters. Abyss is also incredibly slow and boring. World number one Abyss hater here. I'm never going to intentionally do Abyss unless it's Affliction League, and it's just so much better than everything else that it's undeniable. But since it's not Affliction League anymore, I'm steering clear of Abyss. I'm sticking with Domination and just making these maps be fast and extremely rewarding, not going for the full Abyss angle. In terms of what we actually do in the maps, it's not really very complicated. It's pretty much the same as it always has been. You choose a map that you like. I like Mesa, Dunes, and Jungle Valley. I've really been sticking with Mesa more recently because the map layout's a little easier, certainly getting to the boss very quickly without dying, without your mercenary getting killed is a lot easier than it is in Dunes. You just run right up, kill the boss, and then clear the map out. There you go. I did play around with Jungle Valley some. The only real issue I have with that is just that it drops Abomination map, which is probably my least favorite of the tier 17 maps available. Mesa and Dunes both drop Fortress map as their tier 17 of choice, which is pretty great. Mesa also drops the Fortunate. Again, great div card, really good stuff. And I use the Nameless Seer. I think I called him the Blind Seer the last couple of videos, but I use the Nameless Seer to scribe Mesa's div card onto Dunes. I tend to bounce back and forth between those two maps. I think I'm currently on a Mesa trend right now after having been on Dunes for the last several days. So I'm sure that by the next video that we put out, I'll be back on Dunes, but at least for the time being, I've been enjoying Mesa more recently. I'm looking at my screen and it says the last map I ran was Dunes. So, you know, it is what it is. As always, we want a boss rush. The main reason, once again, being that you'll remove all the boss rewards from the Eldritch Altar pool. And this is just really good for being able to lock in on Eldritch Altar mods like map duplication, quantity increases, and currency duplication. Scarab duplication can also be pretty good depending on the tier 17 mod rewards that you're getting out of your maps, whether you're getting more currency, more maps, more scarabs. Any of those three are good, and then trying to just simply ratchet that up even further with good Eldritch Altar duplication rewards is what you're looking for. So similar to the previous video, in terms of extracting all the value that we get out of the maps that we're like pulling out of each map, selling tier 17 maps is still valuable, but they're definitely taking a bit of a nosedive because tier 16.5 maps are so rewarding. With that being said, selling tier 16.5 maps is now a very lucrative enterprise. Basically, one window is closed and another one is open right in the same space, right? So you can very easily run this strategy to farm tier 16.5 maps, both to run for yourself and to sell to other people. The amount that you are able to farm is more than you need to self-sustain, so that is really valuable. You will also get a bunch of regular tier 16 maps, and my recommendation on those is just feed them to your mappers. Just hold their mouths open and just ram as many tier 16 8 mod maps down their throats as you possibly can. If you're struggling to sell tier 17 maps, a full team of tier 5 mappers can consistently and safely run tier 17 maps and actually generate passive income primarily in the form of Uber boss fragments. Is that better than selling the maps outright? Probably not, but it is easier. You just give them the maps and they'll do the maps, and you don't need somebody to message you. So you could do that with some of the worst tier 17 maps available, you know, like Citadel, I think, is a good option for just feeding to your mappers instead of trying to get anybody to buy those, or God forbid, running them. But for Fortress maps, I think you could still find people to buy those pretty consistently. I mostly just feed bad tier 16 maps to my mappers. I have played around with some tier 17s, kind of mixed results on the mappers with tier 17s, but the tier 16s have all been pretty successful. So this really is it. This strategy is everything you could possibly need. It's got maps, it's got currency, it's got scarabs, it's got gold, and it's got dying. The only downside to this strategy is I don't want to stop farming to try anything else. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join our Discord and say hello to me and Sunset if you haven't already. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more PoE content, become a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.